We have a great topic for you, but you knew that because we always have a great topic for you. Um,
Uh,
I love the question, what is the meaning of life? And I had the opportunity to uh, listen to someone talk about that. And he believed that the meaning of life was living in love, living in a state of love. And so that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to explore what it means to live in love and how you do that and why and the benefits and all the ins and outs. And so, yeah, living in love. I really like that. I appreciated the conversation, but I definitely liked what he had to point out because the popular narrative that love is, nothing's greater than love, or love is indestructible, and all those other very cliche but well-known expressions. And I think there's a reason they're so well known. I think there's a reason that they're out there, and that is because I do think there's a lot of truth to what he had to say when he said that, what's the meaning of life? It's to live in a constant state of love. Um, and and yeah, so I guess the first question would be, what does that mean? What does it look like to live in a constant state of love?
hmm I'm
And I
just
mean, for
wondering, what is
me,
love? Because
huh?
in the English language, we only have one word to find love.
Right. Well, that's true too. Yeah. There's different languages and cultures that have multiple definitions of love and multiple meanings to love and all that other stuff. But to me, when I think of that, what comes to mind is flexibility. Openness is probably the biggest. Um, Surrender going hand in hand with being flexible, but also both of those going hand in hand with being open. Um, and I would also say an aspect of positivity, because it really pushes you to keep a good mental state of mind, a humble state of mind, I would also say, um, because a lot of times when we struggle to stay in a state of love, it's because we're angry or we're resentful or we feel like we're a victim of something else.
Yes, it's really helpful to point out sometimes of what love isn't, or
Yeah,
what isn't it like to live in a state of love, which is without fear, anxiety, worry, stress, insecurity. Those are all not love. And sometimes it's good to focus on what is not to help us focus on what is. Um, but yeah, dude, I agree with all that. But I also would say that living in love is living in a state of inspiration, a state of giving, um,
yeah.
of abundance, of something, pouring out instead of being, because purely a consumer. You were a producer, you were creative, using what's given to your skills, your talents, whatever you have, and magnifying it.
I would agree with that. I'm just looking up a definition real quick. Not even a definition, it's something else. But my computer's being super slow. Um, but there's a great
I can tell you
verse.
that I try to look at my own situations in life, whether I'm making a decision or how I'm handling something, through analyzing the emotions that I'm feeling. And I just ask myself, is this from fear? Is this from insecurity? Or is this coming from a place of inspiration and creativity? And usually when I'm feeling these different emotions, from what's coming from fear and insecurity, are often very, like, crippling feelings, of emotion, um, constricted, versus feeling of creativity and giving is more of a freedom kind of feeling.
I would say
I
that's
try to maintain that kind
important
of
to
state.
note, is the freedom experience.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what I was looking for. 1 Corinthians chapter 13.
It's just love is patient, love
Love
is
is
kind.
patient. Yep, love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in the evil, but rejoices in the truth, which kind of ironically talks about all the things that love isn't, right? So love is patient. Love is kind. Love is, what's the opposite of envious? I don't even know. Love is grateful that someone else is doing well. It's humble. It's it's selfless. It seeks for others. Um, it is joyful. It is not resentful. So it is. I don't even know what the opposite of resentment is. Love rejoices in the truth. But that's one of my. That's always been one of my favorite definitions. And so to be able to say you're living in a state like that is, well, it's pretty hard because I mean, because like most of the time you look at that and you say, well, I'm doing one of those things, easy enough. Um, but I feel like that is one of the best things to compare yourself to when you're looking for the answer to the question of, am I living in a state of love, and ultimately openness? You know, are you experiencing resentment and anger and jealousy and all these other things? Or are you experiencing joy and um, what else? Joy and selflessness and a spirit of giving and gratitude and excitement for the success of others and all this other stuff.
And this is it's how we're referring to these feelings. I think it's super important because we need to analyze that to like judge where we're at and how to adjust and make changes in our life. I mean, that's what these feelings are for, right? They're not just there to be there. They're there to give us a message. That's what pain is too. You touch the wood stove or the hot stove and you get burnt. There's a message that's physical pain, right? But that's telling you not to touch the stove again. Same
Right.
with emotional pain. It's like there's some kind of thought process you have in your head and maybe you need to adjust into a thought process of love. I think love sometimes can be very confused because really it starts with the intention, and it could be misperceived. Like you might be doing something that's loving and others might see it as like taking away from others. Like I can, if let's say for example self-love, I go out and I do something for myself, others might see that as selfish when really it's just to better myself, to love myself. I'm not doing it despite other people. Well, is that not love or is that still love?
Right.
So it really starts in how you think about it, your true intention.
Yeah, there's a couple things that come to mind in that. First, I have a little similar scenario. You talked about recognizing the physical situations. I had someone do something the other day, and I called them out for it, and I was like, "Look, I get it. Like you're having a bad day, but that's not my fault. Don't take it out on me, please." And they got pretty upset over that. They were like, I appreciate that you called me out, but now I feel bad. And I was like, great, that's good. You should feel bad. I was like,
Hmm.
because the feeling of feeling bad is you realizing that what you did wasn't right. And so now you can correct it. So that's great. Like, I'm not here to make you feel bad, but it's good that you can acknowledge that you feel bad, right? So there's that sign, like the touching the hot stove. It's like, ooh, why am I getting burned? Because the stove is hot, right? What do I need to learn from that, right? Why do I feel like I did something? Why do I feel bad? Because I did something wrong, right? What do I need to learn from that? Um, and I like to think of the shifting of the attitude, right? Because like, how does one shift from this state into living in a state of love? It's not easy. Although it's probably easier than one would think, because it comes with that awareness. It comes with acknowledging that you are experiencing whatever. You're experiencing anger, you're experiencing resentment towards someone, you're experiencing a tightness in your body, you're acting a certain way, and saying, okay, well, is this in alignment? Especially, if you need a reference, is this in alignment with the reading from First Corinthians chapter 13, verse 1? Because then you can be like, no, it's not, right? So then you can be like, okay, well, next step, what do I need to do next? It's like, okay, well, right now, what does living in love probably look like to me, right? Because you don't have to nail it. You don't have to hit it perfectly. You just have to do your best. And so, like, a lot of times for me, that's like, I just need to relax and let people be the way they are and just be okay with that. Like, I think I use traffic a lot because I'm always driving, and like nothing gets me more annoyed than traffic half the time, because people are always in the passing lane. They're always going slow. They're always like not, they don't know what they're doing. That's what it looks like from my perspective. It's like they're switching lanes and then they're going back and then they're taking exits and they're not using their signals and they're braking and they're going, and you're like, right, for me, I'm like, what is going on? This is ridiculous. Just drive. Right. And so you might be able to relate to that. Right. But like for me, what do I need to do? A lot of times I'm like, okay, hang out, right? What do I need to do? I need to go the speed limit, right? So maybe I need to slow down, or maybe I can't go any faster than I'm going. I need to make sure I'm a safe distance behind the person. I need to make sure my seatbelt's on. I need to take into control what's in my control, and then I just need to ride it out and like be patient. And like, like, am I being in a state of love? Like, it doesn't sound like it, but like my openness to the situation around me and my willingness to let things be and exist as a part of it, I would argue is in alignment with that. And then of course, if there's other things, you can always go above and beyond. Like, I've been in traffic wanting to get somewhere, being late, and I've seen people on the side of the road stuck, and I've been like, I should pull over. Do you need help? Or there's been a couple instances where I've seen car crashes and I've been like, let me help you get your car out of the road so that traffic can get by, and make sure 911 was already called if it wasn't, and make sure nobody's seriously injured until someone gets on scene. Like, there's a lot of different levels to that state of openness and being in a state of love. And a lot of times I think we do it subconsciously, like we don't know. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
for me, I don't think, a lot of times I don't think twice. I see someone outside the route and I'll just pull over real quick and I'll be like, hey dude, are you good? And they'll be like, oh yeah, someone's coming. I'll be like, great. Just want to make sure you're not stranded with no cell phone, with a broken down car, with no money, with nothing.
Hmm.
And like, so a lot of times it happens subconsciously, and a lot of times you might want to look for that opportunity because you're like, wow, how can I better serve? How can I better project goodness into the world? And so, you can always look around too, because I've done that too. Um, but a lot of times I think it really is that openness, that flexibility, that acknowledging that you don't control everything, taking control of what you do control, and letting go of what you can't control, or not pushing beyond that. Because like I can say that's a bad habit for me. I'll be like, oh, I I could fix this problem. It's like, it's not my problem to fix. I could just ride with the flow.
Yeah. So, Bear, what are you rushing for?
Because I got an agenda to meet. I've always got something I want to take care of.
Nice.
I mean, everybody has their own schedule. Most people, they want to get from work to home, or they want to get their grocery shopping done so they can go see their favorite TV show or whatever. And that puts us in a mode of accomplishing.
That's why you're going to see your favorite TV show. That's why you're
Yeah, that's me. Yeah, definitely. I just can't live without my favorite TV show.
trying to get home to get watch the TV.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, let me give you a different perspective on this, on love, I
yeah.
guess, that others might find helpful is that I use is I ask myself, I kind of analyze where I am, what I'm pursuing, and am I doing that out of love or am I doing that out of fear? What direction am I going? What kind of decisions are I making? Am I making them out of fear, maybe scarcity, insecurity, or am I making them out of creativity, inspiration? What am I spending my time doing? Is that inspired by love or is that inspired by fear?
Well, that brings up a good point. Let me see if I can't find this. What's his name? In one of his books, Wayne Dyer talked about the seven faces of intention, and one of them was creativity. And I would argue that to live in a state of love, you are practicing these, to make it conscious and put an effort into it, or subconscious and you're already doing it without knowing it. I would argue living in a state of love looks like carrying, practicing these on a regular basis, right? And he says the 7 faces of intention, which are which he calls a connection with the higher power, and you could call maybe a state of love, is creativity, kindness, love. So there's that beauty, expansiveness, abundance, and receptivity, right? So are you being receptive? Are you being abundant? Are you seeking to expand in good ways? Are you, being grateful and appreciating beauty and bringing forth more beauty? Are you being kind? Are you being loving? Are you being creative? And to do those things, um, he says connects you with this power of intention, connects you with the divine. And I would argue, especially considering that's what Christian teaching talks about, right? Like God is love, right? So to connect with the divine is to connect with love. So if you're living these 7 principles out, then you're living in a state of love.
And talk about an amazing experience when you make
Yeah,
that
I mean, I
commitment.
bet. I mean, if you were
Yeah.
always doing creative and kind and beautiful and expansive and abundant and receptive acts and,
Mm.
living in a state like that, I mean,
No, I can tell you
it sounds good. And
yeah,
it sounds
it is good. It's
even better when
beautiful,
you read the book.
freeing. It's especially compared to the opposition, which is, like I said, fear, anxiety, stress. Um, it's just you're in a painful state versus a state of honestly freedom,
Right.
freedom from those hard emotions right there.
Well, and I think what you said from the beginning, look for the signs. Um, what are you experiencing? What's it pointing to? You can look at what love isn't, right, or what First Corinthians talks about. Are you experiencing what love isn't? And then you can look at what love is and what you believe love is, and what love is, and what you suspect love would look like, even if you had to only guess, and what other people say love is, and you know because like you pointed out from the beginning, Daniel, the love in American society and Western world is defined as romance, and that's about it. Um, or doing a nice act for someone else, but like it's a lot deeper than that. And so that's why I always appreciated. That was probably the best book I read this past year or the last year, whenever I read it. Because it really gave me something to look at solidly and say, am I experiencing this? Because if I am, I know I'm on a right track. Um, and so, yeah, I like your example of creativity, and that sparked my own thought process. But um,
It's
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, what you
It's
can look at yourself and you can see what's happening around you, and you can see if you're being destructive or creative, um, or benefiting the world or not benefiting the world, or benefiting yourself or not benefiting yourself, and then you can quickly answer that question. Usually, the state I'm in, is it a good state, and is
right.
it the best possible state?
Hmm. Yep, that's right. Even look at Genesis. If you believe we were created for love, read Genesis and how God created Adam and Eve to work in the garden and to multiply, and that was all creative stuff, like creating and producing. I like
Right,
to ask myself too, like, Daniel, are you being a creator here or a consumer? Um, and what's your life about? Is it about adding or subtracting? What's your mission?
right. And I
You
think
taking away from or are you giving?
when you notice the consumer portion or the subtraction portion, I think typically that's a very you can see it's very selfish usually. Like I could say that for myself. If I'm sitting in a state of consuming all the time, it's usually because I'm focusing on me and I'm doing something selfish. And um, so again, it's a matter of looking for the signs and entering that greater state of consciousness to be able to correct yourself moment by moment.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Thanks for watching The Hype Mind. Have a
Yeah.
good one.
Tune in. Let us know what you think the meaning of life is. Peace.
Peace.